Good morning, Four Friends! To everyone here and everyone in our virtual community, everyone on the balcony. My name is Damaris Giha, pronouns are she, hers. As Angela said, I'm a preaching boot camper, and this is my first time preaching. A little about me. I serve on the worship team here. I am bisexual. Happy Pride Month. I am a singer-songwriter, which I know is partly why I was assigned to continue our sermon series, Story of the Songs. I'm from a small suburb about an hour north of here. Some might call that upstate. It's not. And I've been in this city for most of the last 14 years. Those years have molded this sensitive, shy, soft-hearted inner child into a jaded, brazen New Yorker who can take on just about anything. I've spent most of my adult life single and very independent. And I have a partner now, but he lives all the way in Nashville, and he better be watching on the live stream. For most of my adulthood, though, I've had to take care of myself on my own, as many of us do. Though much of my family is in a 3-hour radius, they aren't around to help with the ins and outs of daily life. I haven't always had the blessing of sharing chores with others, of having friends and family cook for me, or having help doing daily tasks. And for most of that time, I've really prided myself on my independence, thought it was like a badge of honor that I could wear. Look how well I provide for myself on my own. Look how much done I can get. Look how much I can get done by myself. And I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. I struggle with depression and anxiety, and I'm often bogged down by persistent fatigue. And I'm just so over doing it by myself and trying to prove something by doing it by myself. I even wrote a song about this. And if any of you have seen me perform my song Help Wanted, it came from a place of acknowledging this pride of being independent and not necessarily wanting a romantic relationship, but also acknowledging a deep, deep desire to have help in certain areas of my life, like bringing furniture up to my 4th floor walk-up. So the song is about like hiring a part-time lover who could provide much-needed relief without the commitment. I won't sing that for you now, but I have found that I crave community that cares for others and for itself. Community that goes beyond the niceties and casual social gatherings and actually provides care for each other. Because it's so hard to do life on your own. It's been hard for me to do life on my own. Capitalism and Western individualism have taught us that we must struggle by ourselves in order to achieve greatness, to maximize our output and capital gain, and that asking for help is a sign of weakness. We often feel shame in asking for help, like it reflects poorly on our ability to survive or thrive. Like we can't even take care of ourselves, or there must be something wrong with us for not being able to have a partner to help us. And current cultural attitudes, especially towards women, make it so we're deemed less if we're not in relationships, or that we're less valued. So not only are we tasked with our own care, and often the care of others and our loved ones, but we're also stigmatized for it. And if you're queer, BIPOC, women identifying, disabled, lower income, or 2 or more of these, you may fight multiple battles for resources and for care. Can anyone else identify with any of this? Maybe this sounds like you. Maybe you're also exhausted, or lonely, or tired of being the only one who is caring for you. Today, the song I want to talk about is Bridge Over Troubled Water, written by Paul Simon of Simon and Garfunkel. It's been recorded by many, many artists after the original version, including Aretha Franklin, Elvis Presley, and very notably, an incredible Jacob Collier version recently released with the otherworldly vocals of Tori Kelly. If you haven't heard it, do yourself a favor. It's amazing. I'd been loosely aware of this song over the years and was somewhat familiar with Aretha's version. But then Jacob Collier's version came out a couple months ago, and I have been playing it and singing it over and over and over again, and trying to nail the insane runs that Tori Kelly does, somewhat successfully, I might add. But mostly unsuccessfully. And as I did that, I started feeling I was also at the same time feeling very nervous about what song I was going to write about for this sermon. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, wait a second, this song is kind of starting to symbolize my growing gratitude for the ways that community and community care was showing up in my life. What I love about this song is that it's a description of a very special kind of care, a special kind of kinship, more than your average friendship. And Leslie is going to sing it after, but I'm going to sing just a little bit here to kind of illustrate the point. When you're weary, feeling small, when tears are in your eyes, I will dry them all. I am by your side. When times get tough and friends just can't be found, like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down, like a bridge over troubled waters, I will lay me down. I will lay me down. I love that. I will lay me down. This image is so powerful. When things are becoming too overwhelming and you're down, not even your friends are close by, this something or someone is close by and will be there for you. And while it could be heard as a romantic love song or a friendship song, I have been receiving it as a song about community care. Community care is sacrificial. It lays itself down for its own. As storms and floods and rising tides are causing this troubled water that the song speaks about, it decides to reach across the water, extend itself, exert itself, so that its people can get to safety. That is so beautiful. I will lay me down. Recently, I've begun to shift how I'm thinking about my own care, and this song symbolizes the possibilities for that. And there are also a lot of biblical models for this, so let's explore that in the scripture. So, how community care manifests may seem unfamiliar to us in Western culture. The popular images that it conjures are like communes or cults or Sovietism or some kind of weird thing like that. However, it has existed and continues to exist in different ways in lots of non-Western cultures. And it was also biblically mandated for different groups of vulnerable people and included in sections of Jewish law in the Hebrew Bible. In Deuteronomy 14:28-29, Moses gives these laws. At the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the foreigners, the fatherless, and the widows who live in your towns may come and eat and be satisfied, so that the Lord your God may bless you in the work of your hands. When you are harvesting in your field and you overlook a sheaf, do not go back and get it. Leave it for the foreigner, the fatherless, and the widow, so that the Lord your God may bless you in all the work of your hands. So in these times, the foreigners, the fatherless, or we can say the orphans, the foreigners, the orphans, and the widows were 3 groups of very vulnerable people, and the community was responsible for some of their care. And turning to Leviticus 25, God introduces the revolutionary concept of the Jubilee year to the Jewish people. The Jubilee year, meant to happen every 50 years, was to be a celebration of liberation, rest, and restoration for both people and land. Debts were to be wiped clean, the land was not to be used so that the nutrients can restore. There were laws in there about restoring property to their original owners and about setting free any hired servants or slaves that were in labor debt. I won't read the whole thing because there's a lot in there, but it's a revolutionary concept. I encourage you to kind of check it out when you have a moment, and I'll highlight just a few verses. Verse 10 says, oh, actually, do we have this one up there? Okay, cool. Verse 10 says, consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land to all its inhabitants. Jumping to verse 35, if any of your fellow Israelites become poor and are unable to support themselves among you, help them as you would a foreigner and stranger, so they can continue to live among you. I'm going to jump to verse 39. If any of your fellow Israelites become poor and sell themselves to you, do not make them work as slaves. They are to be treated as hired workers or temporary residents among you. They are to work for you until the year of Jubilee. Then they and their children are to be released, and they will go back to their own clans and to the property of their ancestors. See, God desired for the community to care for those who were going through hard times, such as the foreigner, as we see here again, the stranger, the poor, and to bring restoration to those who needed care. Now, there's actually little evidence that the Jubilee was practiced, but it serves as a very powerful theological model of God's heart for the oppressed and for the less fortunate, and honestly, just people who are struggling in general. Okay, but in the New Testament, we're going to jump forward, there is actual practice by the early Christians, according to the author of Acts. After Jesus ascends to heaven post-resurrection, the early church is really starting to take shape, and the disciples are starting to figure out how to do life with each other, seemingly without their leader. In chapter 2, the Holy Spirit is given to all of the believers in what's known around the globe as Pentecost Sunday, which was celebrated about 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago at this point. So, the scene is, they've just gone through the traumatic event of the crucifixion, seen Jesus resurrected and ascended into heaven. Now they're on their own, and all they have is each other and the Holy Spirit. The author wraps up the chapter by saying, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. I love, this passage has fascinated me for a while now, but I love the language of they devoted themselves to fellowship. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone in need. What an incredible example of pooling together resources for community care. These are all such practical examples of how we can show up for each other. We share things when it's needed. What we have all belongs to everyone. It's radical. It's so old, but it's still so radical. And it sounds kind of peaceful and easy. The author kind of makes it sound a bit like the end of a children's book. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. It's all wrapped up nice and neatly. And I'm sure it's not like that always. But I'll be honest, it sounds better than what I'm doing now. They're just eating and enjoying life with glad and sincere hearts. I think they're having a great time. And it's not lost on me that they were living under the brutal Roman Empire, yet in their solidarity managed to find joy and support. We are also living under empire of capitalism, imperialism, white hetero supremacy, patriarchy. We can find the same support and joy in each other. It's safe to say we're going to go through our own troubled waters at some point. We will be the vulnerable ones, whether that be financially, emotionally, mentally. The list continues. We will need to ask for, receive, and give care at some point. And in a world where we're expected to pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps and take care of me and mine, this kind of community is radical. Laying ourselves down for each other and sharing what we have so everyone has enough is radical. It was radical then, and it's radical now. It is an act of protest against a capitalist system designed to keep us separate and mostly powerless. Giving and receiving care, though, is part of God's restoration plan. So, how can we be someone's bridge over troubled water? How can we lay ourselves down for each other? Today, I find that community care comes from this church in a variety of ways. The one that's been impactful for me lately is the Palestinian Liberation Task Force. Yeah. We can give a hand clap for that. And also, the various small groups that I've been a part of have been so life-giving for me. Specifically for the Palestinian Liberation Task Force, we're a bunch of justice-minded individuals that grieve, hope, and act together for collective liberation. Not only does my soft and angry heart have a place to land and find understanding, but also I get to spend time actively working towards liberation for all people with this incredible group of people. And combined with my other community groups, it all creates a powerful network for us to love and care for each other. So community care has been showing up, I think, for all of us as, I have a list here, friendship. Many of us have made some amazing friendships in both the small groups and the task force. With the people in this community, I am no exception. It's given me so much life. Community care also shows up for us as joy and joyful time together, whether that's eating, discussing books, playing, laughing together with people that I may or may not be friends with. Audre Lorde, self-described Black lesbian mother warrior poet, talks about the sheer power that joy has within community. She describes it as erotic, not in a sexual way. To her, the erotic is the power of an internal sense of satisfaction. Yeah, very fascinating. In her essay, Uses of the Erotic as Power, which you can find online, it's a very good essay, she writes, "The erotic, which again is this internal sense of satisfaction, functions for me in several ways. And the first is in providing the power which comes from sharing deeply any pursuit with another person. The sharing of joy, whether physical, emotional, psychic, or intellectual, forms a bridge between the sharers, which can be the basis for understanding much of what is not shared between them, and lessens the threat of their difference." Yeah, go ahead, Audre Lorde. Joy is a form of care that is often last on the to-do list. So it's really cool that she uses the word bridge, I think, that it forms the bridge between sharers and also is a part of the bridge over troubled waters. It restores our soul when we're low, and its power. Community care also shows up for us as tangible help. Recently, a friend from the task force came over and helped me dismantle my old bed and put together a new one. I hadn't even asked for it. He knew that I was going through a difficult time and asked if there was anything he could do to help me. So I told him, well, actually, I have this bed that's just sitting in my living room. And he offered to care for me, and I actually took him up on it and received care. And finally, community care often shows up as hope. Lately, I have been really low on hope. Between world crises, grave injustices around the world, mental health struggles, the news cycles, I, a normally very hopeful person, am regularly running low on hope. But seeing activism happen in real time, being here every Sunday, and seeing others have hope when I have none, that renews my hope. I learned to rely on the hope of my community. They always have something to rejoice over, even if it's small. You always have something to rejoice over, even if it's small. And even coming into community like this, week in, week out, serving and sharing space with y'all, that feeds my hope as well, because I see how even just showing up can bless us and be a blessing to others. Cole Arthur Riley in Black Liturgies says, "If your hope is waning, find those who can sustain it. And when the time comes, you will carry someone else's hope for them. No individual can resist despair on their own. We steady each other. We can't afford despair." I think the major difference between having a friend group and having a community is that a community will care for you even if you're not friends with those in it. You don't have to be friends with someone in order to care for a member of your community. And I see that happen here all the time. What I love about this church is that we're actively working on caring for each other even if we don't have direct relationships with the person who needs care. Friends sacrifice and care for their loved ones, but community sacrifices and cares for the good of the group, and often even those on the periphery and beyond. My vision is for us to be like the Acts 2 community. Every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. We can be devoted to each other like that. We can pool resources together. We can eat together with glad and sincere hearts. We can enjoy the favor of everyone. And if you're in need of friendship, joy, tangible help, hope, this church is here to help you access those. So, beyond joining a small group or the task force, how can we imagine or reimagine community care? How can we be someone's bridge over troubled water? Well, I think we can start by knowing where and how to ask for help. We're so good at giving help to others when they ask us, but we often feel so much shame when we need it. I'm working on asking for help more. This requires all of us to learn to receive help and trust others when they say they want to help. And we as a church already do this with our Forefront Care Fund. It's built into our church DNA. In our value of uncommon kinship, we state that we are a diverse community that is committed to generously caring for one another. And if you're in need of any kind of care, whether that's in-person, meal trains, financial help, counseling, you can go to forefrontnyc.com/assistance, and there's a form to fill out. Amber is the care deacon right over there. And she will help organize and coordinate care and resources for you. I really love that we as a church dedicate resources and funds to help those of us who are going through a tough time. And for the rest of us, we have the opportunity to sign up to join a meal train or cook for someone who just had a baby or help someone who just had surgery with daily tasks and really do the nitty-gritty of care. And then what can we do in our own circles, in our own community groups and friend groups? Because care can and should be all of our responsibilities. We don't have to be the only ones caring for ourselves. A couple weeks ago, I stumbled upon a blog by Anne Helen Peterson, and she had taken a couple different resources and combined it into a form she calls the Personal Emergency/Tough Times Guide. And I think I have a picture up here. Oh, can you actually go to, yeah, right here. So this is like a screenshot of a couple of the questions, but basically it'll ask you some questions about the kind of care that is most helpful for you in tough times, such as things that would be really helpful but I'd probably never ask for, and what kind of food makes me feel loved, so that if you or someone that I know is struggling, I can look at this form and know how to help you. And even if you won't necessarily ask for help, I know how to help because you've already told me. And I've asked a few of my friends in this church to start filling it out so I know how to care for you when you're struggling. Thank you. And I think this really could be a great resource for us to get better at taking care of each other outside of the official care funds. So here's the QR code for that form. If you want, you can copy it. You can make your own. You can create one for your community group or friend group. And it's also going to be linked in the resources for the sermon, and I believe it'll be in the newsletter for next week. I'm excited to see how we can use this. So, Bridge Over Troubled Water ends with these lyrics. Sail on, silver girl, sail on by. Your time has come to shine. All your dreams are on their way. See how they shine. If you need a friend, I'm sailing right behind. We struggle sometimes, but with the care of our community and loved ones, I think we get to sailing, eventually. We get to shining. We get the dreams a little closer on their way. When we're not so worried about surviving and caring for ourselves, we open ourselves to dreaming again, to hoping again, to living that life more abundantly that Jesus talked about. May we give our dreams a chance to come close by serving and loving each other, by lifting each other up with words and joy and hope and action, and taking care of each other. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I just spilled a bunch of water on myself. I blessed myself. It's holy water. Okay, and now we're going to take communion. It is open communion, as Theon said in the beginning of service. It's for everyone here. We have alcohol-free juice. and gluten-free wafers. We'll have it available in the balcony as well, and it's on the sides here, so we're going to come up from the aisles. And if you need us to bring you communion, just raise your hand and someone can bring it to you.